I'll make this as clear as possible to contextualize how fans are feeling. It feels like money has become more important than the core experience for fans. That's why Elden Ring.
It feels like. Yeah, it feels like. I think, yeah, sure. You can put it that way. Alright, so I am being told... Hey, what's up? Wanna record with me? So, I've been told that IGN apparently has some good takes for once. Yes, the stars have aligned, the moon is full, it's the vernal equinox, and IGN is actually spitting some facts. So I want to check this video out that's been sent to me.
Baldur's Gate 3 is taking the internet by storm. At its peak, a whopping 800,000 plus concurrent players were playing this weekend, catapulting it to the number 8 most played of all time spot.
Hell yeah.
The gaming community has sung its praises, and it's incredibly refreshing to play a feature-complete game of this caliber on.
Feature complete. That's a word that we haven't heard in a while, huh? It's just a nice thing that they are going back to something that we always used to have in the past, before the gaming industry got too greedy.
On day one. But AAA game developers want you to know that this is Rockstar level nonsense for scope, that it's foolhardy to set expectations higher, and Baldur's Gate 3 should not be used as a raised standard.
Okay, hold on. Just a little bit of context here. Zalavia's tweet, we talked about this, what, like 3 weeks ago, right? Or at least I talked about it. Do you mind? I'm going to record, so please be still. So his thing was that he was complaining. Well, not exactly complaining, but raising the fact that he, as being a small developer, the head of a small developing studio, with titles like Space Warlord, Organ Trading Simulator, but he was bringing up a comparison showing that it wouldn't exactly be fair for small studios like his to be held to the same standards as Larian have been, since they have completely different circumstances in the way that they've been developing their game. Okay, so you are going away. I can't focus. But the thing is that nobody, absolutely nobody, would have ever expected a studio of his size to be able to put out something like that, to raise the standard to that level. I think that was what he was addressing. It wasn't making any bad points at all. It was the AAA studios that jump onto his tweet that were making a mess. I mean, it went from Obsidian later on to EA and so much more. Sony even, damn.
To RPGs going forward. Why was the first response to defend the current state of AAA gaming as opposed to saying, hey, maybe we can learn a thing or two from Baldur's Gate?
But that's the thing, he wasn't defending AAA studios. That needs to be pointed out. That's kind of throwing shade at the wrong person, I think, because now I'm going to guess that a lot of people on Twitter are going to be selecting his tweet first because he kickstarted the whole deluge of bad takes, but his take was not bad at all.
Baldur's Gate 3 and make our game better for our customers. This all kicked off way back on July 8th, a lifetime ago by internet standards, I know, when a writer and BAFTA nominee, Xavier Nelson, took to Twitter to express concerns about Baldur's Gate 3, namely that fans would use Baldur's Gate 3 to apply criticism or a raised standard to RPGs going forward. My rebuttal is, why shouldn't customers have raised standards? Taking it a step further, why shouldn't some AAA developers raise their own standard?
Okay, sure, they should raise their own standard, but the bar was already set somewhere. It went lower. We have had this for years. Some studios have maintained this level of polish, this way of delivering games. I can count them on one hand, but there are some who have done it.
Are we really going to pretend that consumers shouldn't be a little upset right now and hoping for an improvement in the industry going forward? Rockstar just announced a $50 remake, conversion of the original Red Dead Redemption for the PlayStation 4 and Switch that has no mention of a 4K update, no mention of 60 FPS, and no mention of multiplayer support. The game came out 13 years ago, and the Xbox port does everything they're offering, and then some for free with your 360 copy.
The funny, well, maybe not so funny thing about this is that they didn't even try to lure people in by promising a remaster, like for those who are way too hungry for better graphics and who have the money to waste on the latest graphics card. I mean, which is one other issue, because one thing is making bad and unfinished game, another one is to working in tandem with the hardware manufacturers and pushing people to constantly get the latest hardware, which is actually not worth it. Like, it's such a dick move.
Go buy a brand new copy of the Game of the Year edition on Amazon right now for $30 and you're good to go. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, when released on PC, had furious fans citing numerous problems getting the game to run, frequent crashes.
Yeah, well, that was mainly a PC issue. I'm not excusing it, but there are levels to which fans tend to let certain things slide. On one such level is the performance issues, if the game's story and the rest of it is good. And it got patched relatively later. I follow some of the Digital Foundry's videos, which actually, speaking of that hardware point that I just made, have a very good take on how it is that companies should stop trying to push these hardware, these newer cards out for us to use.
That means you're you're just giving the user more headaches than they need. Like this last year, and even at the end of last year, games have come out where, yes, they should obviously look and run a lot better on 8GB GPUs, as we'll talk about soon enough on another topic. But the thing is, the point is they're launching in a level. This is the new way things are done. Games are launched in a level where scaling is atrocious, CPU performance is awful, and the user is the one left to defend themselves. And if you have the high-end power in terms of VRAM and a really fast clocked CPU, you're in a much better state than someone who has less VRAM and a mid-range CPU. And in this case, this GPU is not upgrading in that core feature over the last generation, and it is just going to lead to so many more user headaches than would be necessary if they just did an entirely different memory configuration in general.
And similar problems on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox. EA apologized and is still working to fix the issues. Destiny 2 just released a State of the Game blog saying, amongst other things, that they don't have the resources to release new ritual armor every season. But that same studio manages to create new armor sets in the shop for up to $20 a pop without fail every season. Diablo 4 unabashed.
Wasn't it because some fans complained that the ones that they were making were already doo-doo? That they were shit? So that you always had to grind for the biggest and best one for it to even make sense.
Actually has several character skins priced at $20 each and just released their first season that had a patch that was so poorly thought out that the developers had to have an emergency live stream to apologize. And if
Wait. It wasn't just that. They went on an apology tour to apologize for the previous apology. That's the level of cope that was going on there. I'm gonna state this, okay? Gamers were kind of to blame for this. That's a take. Might elaborate further, but let's keep watching.
An emergency live stream to apologize and have since begun working to revert those changes.
We don't plan on doing a patch like this ever again.
Okay, you need a more comparable RPG example of why fans are heralding Baldur's Gate 3 as a breath of fresh air? Look no further than Mass Effect Andromeda, which was widely panned.
Sorry, my face is tired from dealing with everything.
This stuff.
Or Cyberpunk 2077 that made promises about last-gen game consoles that it couldn't keep. It took CDPR almost a year to get that all sorted out.
And it wasn't just consoles. Console was one thing, that was a disaster. But the PC ports as well. All the time. I can't tell you some of the people that were involved in like hyping up the Cyberpunk, who were fans of Cyberpunk 2020, myself included, looking forward to this so much and then not seeing the game take off and just being lambasted. It was so sad. It was so freaking sad. Now, eventually, of course, Cyberpunk recovered. It is now on the chart of one of the most played games on Steam, like top 15 or something like that. Thing, however, is that we did not need a redemption arc. We just needed the game to work on day one. At this point, we have accepted that people can do a No Man's Sky, right? That's fine. I am a sucker for redemption stories, and that's fine also. But just get things working on day one.
I'll make this as clear as possible to contextualize how fans are feeling. It feels like money has become more important than the core experience for fans. That's why Elden Ring.
It feels like. Yeah, it feels like. I think, yeah, sure. You can put it that way.
Baldur's Gate 3 and even The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom are being widely celebrated. So what is up with the excuses?
Mind you, speaking of excuses again, fans can excuse certain things. It's not like Elden Ring, Tears of the Kingdom, nor Baldur's Gate are flawless games. Don't let the love and the enjoyment that you've gotten from Elden Ring tarnish the memory that on its release date, it ran like doo-doo. The game did not perform well. Baldur's Gate might have launched at a much better state, but I streamed it just a couple of days ago and we encountered a lot of funny shit. We tried diplomacy, you wanted war. Don't let her wake up, don't let her wake up. I need to lockpick this. Who can do this best? I think. No! Oh, okay. We need to enter turn-based mode. That's why. But the thing is that we can excuse these things because they are surface level technical issues. They aren't game breaking. Jedi Survivor, well, can have a discussion on that, but they aren't game breaking. So we can still play the game and enjoy that we have a full product in our hands.
A game came along that is amazing, is selling well, is being praised by developers and fans alike, and the response is, well, we can't do that. Well, sweet. If that doesn't get me hyped for Mass Effect 4, I don't know what will. Xavier's tweet was well-intentioned, and he went on to add a lot of important context, but I think it misses the perspective of the consumer. We don't know anything about game design or how hard it is. We just know that Destiny is deleting hundreds of dollars worth of expansions when they feel like it, that Diablo is constantly reminding us to buy skins in their store, and most PC ports have been abysmal lately.
True, that is totally fair. I keep reminding myself how it is that people are judging video games. Like, you have camps that obviously focus on the main thing, being that the game plays well, because it is a video game. The gameplay should come first and foremost. And then you have the camp that obviously focuses on the graphics. The majority of people in both of these camps don't know how it is that you are designing a level, how it is that you are making the characters interact with different NPCs and or objects around them. They don't know about the game design. Like, think about a fighting game, right? How many of you actually know how to deal with netcoding? I don't think that you do. The vast majority of players who have ever done anything with the lighting in contrast with a game has been them working on a video and or rendering something for a video, I imagine. So when Xavier brought this point on how game design is done for studios, I could understand it because obviously it's okay to get the perspective. I mentioned the Obsidian guy before. One of the devs brought up how it is that sometimes there is, or at least hinted to the fact that there's a stranglehold from the publishers on the studios sometime. So how much can they actually do when they don't have the manpower to do it? But that's the thing though. Studios are pushing unrealistic expectation and expecting us to gobble it up. And sometimes they are forcing their own people to do it. Like, think of a studio like IGN. I have brought them as an example many times because I do not understand how the hell Redfall became a thing. They are known for their polished content, the way that they approach things with an immersive sim philosophy, and they they have an obsessive view on how to create certain games, and they have had critical acclaim for doing those things. However, they never got profitable because of that, whether it is because of marketing or because it is the nature of gamers that unless you are diving deep into a game and really assessing its repetitive aspect, you are not going to scratch the surface level of what an immersive sim can do. Is this type that requires a lot of replayability. If you are unable to market your game to the audience that actually is required to play it, don't come complaining that it is not selling, because we don't know. We don't know how it's made, the effort that's been put into it. We can only judge the things that we've had our hands on.
That tweet was made nearly a month before Baldur's Gate 3 blew up, and it was still contentious with fans speaking up about their frustrations and developers chiming in to say what felt like game development is hard, you don't get it, be quiet. Baldur's Gate 3 is a game from a large, passionate studio that refuses to add microtransactions, gave players early access so they could address any problems that arose before launch, and is taking Steam charts by storm.
Yeah.
So why should fans not use that as a gold standard of how to do
Obviously.
it right? And why would a AAA studio not look at it and say, hey, maybe cramming microtransactions into our game isn't a good look?
Or maybe this is something great that we can learn from. How hard is it to appreciate success? To learn from something that was better than yours. But obviously they can't do that.
When Mass Effect 4 comes out, I don't want to see a $20 Liara skin, and I hope that its performance is tested across all platforms before release. Am I in the wrong for not wanting microtransactions and a stable video game at launch? Credit where credit's due now. There have been some really good examples of AAA games like the Dead Space remake and the Resident Evil 4 remake come to mind, both of which have been massive successes for EA and Capcom.
Yeah, Remnant 2. Yeah, it has its bugs, but it was a good game. Came out well.
Vampire Survivors came along and took the internet by storm last year.
The indie scene is goated. Think about that. The $1 million games are being beaten to a pulp by things that are made by 3 dudes sitting in their rooms. Now, if this isn't progress, then I don't know what is.
I need to bring up Elden Ring again? But that tweet blew up in the development sphere, and frankly, the pushback is just ridiculous. Developers should be looking at what Baldur's Gate 3 did and trying to replicate where they can, not jumping up to defend games that are cramming in practices that fans are getting fed up with.
Yeah.
And make no mistake about it, these decisions impact game design. Many games are utilizing battle passes and player engagement as a metric of success.
Ubisoft. Oh my god. How many Assassin's Creed do I have to bring up for this? Like, you need to play the game for 80 hours. To get the fun. And it affects game reviews too. The fact that some game reviewers are trying to be objective with certain things and are forced to have to play a game for 100 hours so to give you how the conclusion is, how the experience is going to be, and if it's even worth it, is criminal. It should never take so long for you to actually tell somebody that this is going to be a good experience. You get your hands on Baldur's Gate. Within the first hour, you know that this is going to be goated.
Pull me out, and we'll get properly introduced.
Well, okay. Well, slap the hand. You know what? Just for shits and giggles. Ow! That's enough said.
For a player, that means more grindy missions. That means more reminders to stop in the shop. It means a boring grind because keeping players engaged is a key metric.
But also though, gamers, let's hold ourselves accountable here. How many hyped Diablo 4? Well knowing that this was what was going to happen. But we still pushed it nonetheless. And I know some people are really enjoying the game. Not one of them, not playing it. But goddamn. Sometimes Just like the sports games, that's another one that we don't even need to talk about. Like, keep on pushing this desire of forcing them to put out microtransaction everywhere. You are dealing with your dollars here. Like, Baldur's Gate, I love the game. But guess what? I did not pre-order it. I bought it after it launched. Because, like, you need to stand for something if you want that change. Unfortunately, it is so that people are just going to pre-order a game. Just because we watched the cinematic. And it's okay to be hype about something, but be mindful.
Many of the people who came out to talk about why Baldur's Gate 3 shouldn't be the new standard have since walked back those statements, and I'm glad. Because if the industry can't take a good hard look at what's going wrong, why fans reacted the way they did to Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3, and then make impactful changes, we're screwed. Also, people seem to be using the fact that Larian is a big studio against them, the fact that they had a long development cycle against them. Really?
What?
Blizzard is also a huge studio with over 8,500 employees across several offices. They credited every employee at Blizzard in the release of Diablo 4. Bungie is a huge studio with over 1,552 employees across several offices. Yeah. BioWare is a huge studio with over 500 employees across several offices.
He didn't mention Halo. He didn't mention 343. I wonder why. It's so bad.
And Larian is also a large studio with over 400 employees across several offices. All of them have established beloved IPs with a ton of lore to pull from. All of them have a lot of money to make video games. And all of them had a long time to make anything they wanted to make. To say Baldur's Gate 3 is successful because it's aligned with Dungeons and Dragons is insanity.
It's idiotic.
You think 800,000 Steam players are playing a game called Baldur's Gate 3 because of Dungeons and Dragons?
People did not even know. Dude, how many in chat when I was streaming it knew what the hell Dungeons and Dragons is? I'm a returning Divinity 2 fan. That is one of the entry points that I've had to D&D. And Pathfinder and some others, Pillars of Eternity to a certain extent. But most players who are coming into this aren't coming into it because they knew the deeper lore of Baldur's Gate, nor of D&D, nor even its prequel, nor because they watched the live stream that had the sex scene with a bear. That one would never disappear from people's minds. They simply saw that there was an awesome game that was free of all of those predatory practices, and they played it and they enjoyed it.
No, it's clearly gone far beyond that audience. I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't know this game had anything to do with Dungeons and Dragons. And you know why I'm playing it? Because I like good games with a heavy focus on storytelling. And bears. But anyway, it wasn't all doom and gloom from the development side. Thank you, Juno Blees, formerly of Riot, for jumping in and echoing exactly what I'm saying here. Her quote tweet reads, "I can't disagree with this one more. Whenever a game disrupts the industry and delights players beyond expectations, it absolutely raises industry and genre standards regardless of why and how. We should look at the Larian success story and ask ourselves, how are we going to make our games better and create the next games that shake up the industry? Players should and must always expect more from us, never less. Thank you." I implore AAA devs to look at these games that are being celebrated and look at your pipeline to see why the consumer is getting frustrated about the experience I outline in this video. And obviously try and make an improvement, because telling me how hard it is when you're breaking profit and revenue records isn't a super compelling argument from the...
I know, because yeah, the problem is that doesn't satisfy investors. Especially when you are in a position where you are a publicly traded company. If you don't have enough predatory practices in the game to assure that the investors are going to be happy by the next quarter, they don't care.
Customer's perspective. Is Baldur's Gate 3 an outlier? Yes, but I for one wish it could become the standard, and being told to shut up because I don't know game design doesn't feel super constructive. But hey, I'm just some idiot on the internet who doesn't know anything about game design. I guess I'll just go buy my horse armor and call it a day. Enjoy your $20 on top of your $100 for the collector's edition, on top of your $15 for the battle pass. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, because I get why you're frustrated, and it's really frustrating to see people not saying, hey, maybe we could learn a thing or two from Larian. I'm enduring Baldur's Gate 3, and I hope game development continues to grow from where it is today. I hope you do too. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And for more on all things gaming, keep it right here on IGN.
Rare IGNW. Okay, I see you. No, actually, usually on the CRPG point of view, they tend to have some, actually this guy I've seen before, to have some pretty good takes. So kudos, IGN. I pretty much agree with all of the points.